First, in an impressive list of events marking Saskatchewan's Golden Jubilee, the Canadian Curling Championship for the MacDonald Brier Tankard was held in Regina, capital city of the province. Here at curling headquarters, players and officials met on arrival from all parts of Canada and were guests at several curling functions during the weekend when true Western hospitality took over. Monday at noon, a colorful parade was formed, led by a detachment of the famed RCMP and followed by the traditional pipers. Regina citizens turned out en masse to get their first glimpse of the curlers as they made their way to the Regina Exhibition Stadium where the Brier was played. A record crowd watched the pipers and the contending rinks, each fresh from a triumph in its own province, as they marched up the ice to take part in the impressive opening ceremonies. Premier T.C. Douglas officially welcomed the curlers. Then Senator John T. Haig, Brier trustee, held the broom as Lieutenant Governor Patterson of Saskatchewan delivered the first rock to officially open the 1955 Brier, with Mr. David M. Stewart of Montreal sweeping. Senator Haig made certain the shot found the button, much to the delight of the crowd. And now the curling champions take over. On the 5 gleaming sheets of perfectly conditioned ice, the first draw gets underway with each rink intent on taking home Canada's outstanding curling trophy, the MacDonald Brier Tankard. Early interest was focused on the clash between Alberta and Nova Scotia. Jerry Glynns, the Nova Scotia skip, making his second appearance in Brier competition, tries for the Alberta shot rock, but takes out one of his own instead. Last year, Matt Baldwin's Edmonton rink won the Brier for Alberta. This year's rink hails from Claresholm, and all eyes were focused on Skip Brown as he drew his last rock into the house, and the Alberta 4 picked up a much-needed point to narrow the margin to 7-5 at the end of the 10th. A 3-ender in the 11th dashed any hopes the Westerners had of getting a win. Nova Scotia, lying 2, had the house well guarded when Brown tried to get through with his last rock. He hit a guard and rolled out. With a big 3-ender coming up, Jerry Glynns, Nova Scotia's skip, didn't make any mistakes as he drew into the circle for 3, making the score 10-5 for his rink. This was the first of a series of 4 losses that dashed Alberta's hopes of duplicating Baldwin's victory of last year. A spectacular first was registered in the 26-year-old Brier record book when a game went 14 ends before the winner was decided. Eddie St. Pierre, the New Brunswick skip, tied the score at 12-all against his Ontario opponents when with his last rock of the 12th end, he drew in to count 3. The ice heavied up in the 13th end, and 10 out of the first 14 rocks piled up in front of the house. Well, what would all you plate glass skips do in a case like this? St. Pierre tried to draw in, but he was light. Andy Grant had last rock. He needed only 1 to break the tie and win. The house was blocked off by 12 stones. He took a chance on a raise, but was heavy. The end was blank and the score was still 12-all. Interest was high during this history-making 14-end game. Skipper Andy Grant called for a takeout from his second Hush Hushigan. And that's just what he got to lie to. The New Brunswick rink failed to get through, and Ontario guarded their 2 rocks. Sam Pierre's last rock wrecked on one of these guards, and Ontario counted 2. The tie was broken, and Ontario won the first 14-ender in Brier history, 14-12. The Prince Edward Island entry was skipped by Doc MacDonald, who returned for his second consecutive year in Brier competition. In the 3rd draw, his rink was giving the Campbell brothers a real battle. Trailing by 1 point going into the 10th, MacDonald put his first rock just over the hog line to guard his shot rock. The Campbell brothers made their first appearance in Brier competition in 1946. They were back again in 1954 when they were runners-up to the winning Alberta entry. Here, Skip Garnett was a little light with his draw. The canny PEI skipper, taking no chances, placed yet another guard just over the hog. Garnett tried to draw his final rock around the Islanders' well-placed defense, but wrecked, and the Easterners picked up a vital point to tie the game at 5-all. The roof fell in on the Easterners in the 11th end, and the Campbells racked up a big 6-ender, their second of the day. The Islanders fought back in the 12th end and picked up 2 more counters. Final score, 11-7 for Saskatchewan. On Wednesday, Newfoundland came up against New Brunswick, and Norm Rockwell, who skipped the Newfoundland 4 to their only win, is right on the broom for a perfect takeout. Eddie Sam Pierre, at the helm of the quartet from Edmundston, was narrow and missed his takeout. Rockwell makes no mistake with his second rock and draws into the house to lie 2. Sam Pierre delivers his last rock. It chips off a Newfoundland rock and rolls out. This made the score 10-5 for Canada's youngest province. In the 10th end, Rockwell tries for a guard with his last rock. It's a bit heavy, but he's in for 2. Sam Pierre made no mistake with his. A double takeout that registered 1 for New Brunswick, making the score read 10-6. But Newfoundland had too much of a lead and went on to win 11-8. With the score tied going into the 12th end, British Columbia's Reg Stone, cigar-smoking veteran of many previous Briers, sends down another guard to protect his shot rock in this neck-and-neck duel with Northern Ontario. Rudy Steskey, the Northern Ontario skip, made his sweepers really hustle as his attempt to draw inside the BC shot rock was a little wide. Stone wasn't taking any chances with his last rock. He countered with a takeout. Undefeated in his first 4 games, Steskey, with final rock, had to draw in to keep his unbeaten record intact. He was close, but just not close enough, and BC counted 1, making the final score 10-9 for the boys from Trail. Saskatchewan supporters got a real scare when their favorites met the Stone foursome from BC, who were ahead 5-2 going into the 6th end. Stone tried for a double takeout, got one, but missed the other. Canny Garnet Campbell had purposely blanked the previous end to get last rock. This strategy paid off for the boys from Avonlea as Garnet laid down a perfect draw shot to pick up a badly needed 2 points. This closed the scoring gap to 5-4 for BC. It was an uphill battle all the way for the Saskatchewan boys. BC counted 1 in the 7th. Saskatchewan countered with 2 in the 8th to tie it up. BC went ahead again, scoring 2 in the 9th, and here in the 10th end, trailing by 2 points, Campbell draws his first rock into the house to lie 2. Stone was faced with practically an impossible double takeout. He got one of the Saskatchewan rocks, but rolled out himself. Garnet Campbell proved himself to be a truly great curler under pressure when, with his final stone, he made a perfect draw to the button to tie the game at 8-all. Saskatchewan scored 1 in the 11th end, and here in the 12th end, Roy Stone tries to raise his own rock onto the Saskatchewan shot rock and take it out. He certainly had the right idea, but was a shade light, and Saskatchewan is still shot. For the first time in the game, the Campbells are ahead. They're 1 up going home, and Garnet isn't taking any chances as he sets up another guard with his first shot. The BC skipper on his last rock was a little wide in his attempt to take out the Saskatchewan shot rock. Saskatchewan counted 1, making the score 10-8 for the brothers from Avonlea. In the 7th round, Quebec and New Brunswick were all tied up in the 7th end. Southpaw Olivier Sanson, skipping the Quebec entry from the famous Jacques Cartier Club of Quebec City, drew his last stone to the front of the house to guard his shot rock. Eddie St. Pierre from New Brunswick drew almost to the button, however, to put his rink ahead 6-5 at the end of the 8th. The 9th end saw knockout curling nearly all the way. Boivin, the Quebec second, took out a New Brunswick rock with his final try. Then Bill Brebner, New Brunswick third, gave him the same treatment. Not to be outdone, Bill MacDonald, the Quebec third, took out the New Brunswick rock. Quebec had 3 in front of the house when St. Pierre came up for his final rock. He drew to the 2-foot circle for shot. The Quebec skip missed with his last rock, and New Brunswick picked up another point, increasing their lead 7-5. New Brunswick went on to win 12-7. With both teams unbeaten up to this point in the 1955 Brier, the Saskatchewan-Manitoba clash was billed as the Battle of Champions. Going into the crucial 6th end with a score tied 2-all, Roy Forsyth, Manitoba skip, took out the Saskatchewan shot rock, but rolled out himself. This left Manitoba with 3 good ones in the house. This didn't faze Garnet Campbell, as he coolly laid his first stone right up to and inside the Manitoba shot rock. Forsyth's try for a takeout didn't quite come off, and Saskatchewan was still shot. Garnet calmly looked over the situation. Got the broom from Brother Lloyd. And drew his last rock right onto the button for a big 2 points, putting his rink ahead 4-2. In the 7th end with Manitoba's shot, Skip Campbell signaled for a takeout. This isn't the kind of shot that Brother Donald, his third, misses very often. And this is no exception, as he obliged. Skip Forsyth asked his third to nestle one up to the Saskatchewan rock at the back of the house. Don Lord isn't one to give anything away either. And that's what he delivers. Garnet's first rock pushes the Manitoba rock over, then knocks one of his own out of the circle. Forsyth's first slides by the Saskatchewan rock to the back of the house. Garnet's final try drew right up beside his shot rock to lie 2. The best Forsyth could hope for here was 1 point, and he called his own shot. A draw into the pocket in front of the Saskatchewan rocks. He was a bit heavy and rolled off the Saskatchewan rock. The crowd watched breathlessly as officials brought out the measuring rods to determine who was shot. Manitoba got the nod, plus a much-needed point, and they trailed Saskatchewan 4-3. Picking up 2 more in the 8th end, Garnett's first stone in the 9th took out the opposition rock to lie 1. Forsyth's first was a trifle narrow. He moved the Saskatchewan rock to the back of the house, but rolled out himself. Garnett kept the pressure on with another draw to lie 2. On Roy Forsyth's last rock in this end, he drew to the back rings. It took another measure to determine that his rock counted 1, making the score 6-4 for Saskatchewan. The 10th end of this bitter duel saw the boys from Avonlea pick up 1 more. And in the 11th, Skip Campbell tried to freeze his first rock to the Manitoba shot rock. It didn't quite come off, but it was still shot. Needing 3 points to tie it up going home, Forsyth tried to squeeze the Saskatchewan shot out with his first rock. And boy, was that close. Campbell added more pressure with a draw to the other side of the house to lie 2. Veteran Skip Forsyth brought the crowd to its feet with a perfect double takeout. He counted 2 to trail by only 1 point going into the last end. In order to score in the last end, Manitoba's strategy called for a rock up front, any rock, to draw behind. Dave Reed, the Manitoba lead, followed this strategy. But the Saskatchewan strategy was to keep the front of the house open. And that's just what Brother Lloyd does. And so it went, a well-placed Manitoba rock. A takeout, and the front of the house left wide open once again. Another perfect Manitoba shot by Frank Muirhead. And the Saskatchewan takeout. That's the way the end progressed. A battle of giants, 2 masters of this great game, until finally Don Campbell's last rock failed to roll out. This was the opportunity that Roy Forsyth had waited so patiently for. A rock in front of the house to draw behind. The delivery. A few anxious moments. His rock barely missed the Saskatchewan rock and drew in nicely to lie 1. Garnet drew his first right up to the Manitoba rock to lie shot. This is Forsyth's last rock. Tension is high as he seems to guide the stone down the ice. The crowd realizes that this is truly championship curling at its best, as they're drawn to their feet by Forsyth's electrifying draw to the button. This could have tied the game up, but Garnet had last rock, and after a close look at the house, plus some free advice from the sidelines, the youthful Saskatchewan skip coolly stepped into the hack. He gets set and delivers his last stone. This was the payoff rock of the 1955 Brier. His rink counted 1 to win the game 8-6. Players and spectators alike seemed to sense that here were the 1955 Brier winners. They made it official on the following day when they won 9-7 over Northern Ontario. The proudest father in all Canada, Sandy Campbell, gave his youngest son a fatherly hug by way of saying, "Well done." Led by the traditional pipers, the curlers paraded up the ice. Once again, a capacity crowd was on hand to witness the colorful closing ceremonies. David M. Stewart, representing the Brier donors, told Regina citizens that this was the best Brier ever and thanked them for their hospitality. Then he presented the famous tankard to Garnet Campbell, the skip, and congratulated each of the brothers in turn. Then Premier T.C. Douglas presented a tray to Garnet. To Donald. To Glenn. And to Lloyd. The runners-up from Manitoba, skipped by Roy Forsyth, came in for their share of plaudits when R.W. Cameron, Brier director from Winnipeg, presented a silver dish to Skip Forsyth. To the third, Don Lord. To the second, Frank Muirhead. And to lead, David Reed. Thus ended the Saskatchewan Jubilee Brier. And fitting it was that the four brothers from Avonlea, the Campbell brothers, should have their names inscribed on the coveted tankard and bring honor to their native province in this, its year of celebration. Their true mastery of the game in all its phases, their sportsmanship, and their modesty will long linger in the minds of players and spectators alike.